Okay, so this is a quick video on how to figure out how to do a recursive function past paper question for OCR A level. So we're going to look at this algorithm here. It is a very simple algorithm. This is the base case when the number is greater than 10, then you return 10, and then you have to recursively unwind. Each time you call yourself, you add 1 onto num1, and so you could generate add 1 onto that. When you hit that base case, it's then going to go back up through the stack and it's going to calculate what this value was, what was returned when we called it, divide that by 2 and add it onto num1. So that's the value it's going to return. So there are a couple of things you need to do when you answer these questions. And the question is, trace the algorithm to show the value returned when we generate 7. Now, usually, and this is 2018 question, but they'll give you a table like this. And you have to show the recursive calls, the value of the parameters, and what it returns at that point. So let's work through this. So the first thing they say is you're going to call generate 7. When you call generate 7, num1 is 7. The value it's going to return is 7, num1, plus generate, in brackets, because we're going to divide this by 2, generate 7 plus 1, and then divide by 2. Right, so that is the value that's going to get returned. Now, we don't know what that value is yet because we haven't reached the base case, but we know that the next call is going to be generate 7 plus 1, which is generate 8. So we can write generate 8 here like that. And num1 is the parameter, is going to be 8. And I'm going to copy this line now to make it faster. All we need to do is change 7 to 8. So this will become 9. I'm going to insert below. I'm going to insert some lines here. It's enough. And then the next line is going to be, so we'll change this to a 9 now. We're going to call generate 9. So I can paste that in there. Generate 9. Number 1 is 9. It's 9 plus 1, which is 10. Divide that by 2. And then it's 9 plus that. And then the next line is going to be 10 plus 1, which is going to be 11. So when we call generate 10, num1 is 10. We're going to add num1 on to this call. And when we call generate 11, this is where we're going to reach the base case. So when we call generate 11, num1 is 11. It's greater than 10. Therefore, we don't do this return line. We're just going to return 10. Okay. So at this point here, we've stacked up all these calls onto the call stack. So that's one unique feature of recursion. You call yourself and you have a call stack and recurse. And once you finish calling yourself, you reach this base case, another feature that num1 is greater than 10. We need to recursively unwind and we go back up through the call stack. So we just follow it back up here and we can replace generate 11 with the value that generate 11 returned, which was 10. So that bolt is going to be 10 plus 10 because generate 11 return 10 div 2 divided by 2. It's just a divide. So 10 divided by 2 is 5 plus 10 equals 15. Then we go back up here. We go to the next place and we work out what generate 10. When we call generate 10, we return 15. See, we can't work out what that call is until we've got to the base case and we've done these other calculations. So then we go 15 fold 2. So sorry, it's 9 plus generate 10 returned 15 divided by 2. So that is 7.5 plus 9. So let's just say that that's 16.5. So this is what they're looking for. You see, they're looking for you showing the generate calls or the recursively looping calls. And then when you reach the base case, then you've got to show what you're returning at each point. So then we've got it's sort of 9, it's 8 plus what did generate 9 return when we called it. It returned 16.5 divided by 2, and so that's basically 8 plus 8, so we get 16. I'm going to get rid of the fractions, and then the last call is 7 plus generate 7. When we call generate 7 plus 1 or generate 8, let's just make that 8 to make it clearer. It returns 16. So 7 plus 16 divided by 2. So 16 div 2 equals 8. So we get 15. It would actually be a slightly fractional number, but I dropped the fraction there because that's actually what they had in the model answer. But they're just looking to see that you've returned, that you know what to insert into this function to recursively unwind to get this final return value, which they want, which is 15. That's what they're looking for in this answer. And how many marks do you get for that? You get the 6 marks for that. When you get the hang of it, you can answer it quite quickly. Next sort of questions they often ask about recursion is, why are we passing, say, num1? Why are we going to pass that? So the link below to all this worksheet, by the way, so you can work through these questions on your own. Why are we passing that by value? Because we want to pass by value because we don't want the number to be overridden. We just want the value to be passed on. So a parameter will copy that value when we pass it in. Whereas if it was a global variable or we pass by reference, the value of that variable would change. And that would mean that we wouldn't output the correct things for the recursive calls. Next question they ask is an essay question. So I think you should read this model answer, and then you should read general approach to writing essays. So look at the kind of things that you're meant to include in writing some essays, and then maybe give this a go. Answer this question with your own knowledge about global and local variables. So basically, this is the model answer, right? There's an introduction, and then you're describing what the parameters are or local variables, and you're describing what global variables are, how global variables affect memory management, and then I'm evaluating what's good and what's bad about them, but in reference to this recursive algorithm. So obviously, the code's not going to work right if we have a global variable. And it's going to cause a memory overhead as well. So yeah, how should you write these essays? If you look at the mark scheme, they break it down into AO1, AO2, and AO3. So first bit is about knowledge and understanding, right? So you need to thoroughly research the topic or know the topic. You should be able to research in the exam. Make sure that you understand the concepts. For example, what are crowd parameters and global variables, right? And how they're used within recursive functions. So start the essay by clearly defining these terms, outline the basic principles behind these conditions, or these concepts, and then provide a context for how these concepts are applied in programming. So where would you use global and local variables? So that's just your knowledge and understanding. Application then, how are you going to apply your knowledge to this practical situation? So after you define what a global and local variable is, you can then define what the application of it is going to be. So these examples could be hypothetical scenarios or draw from real life case studies. Well, here we've got an actual example. So we can talk directly about recursion and how it could be used in this, how global and local variables could be used in this, and why there'd be benefits and disadvantages of that. And then you come on to the evaluation where you talk about the positives and the negatives. The memory is used more in global variables, and also like we don't want to override the value of it. We want to just copy the value of it, so it's used in the next recursive call. And come to your own judgment. So have a read through these points, look at the model answer, and then try and write your own essay question on this. And it's a 9-mark question, so you're looking for at least 3 points of knowledge, 3 points of application, 3 points of evaluation of how they're used in this real world scenario. And then there's also the model answers at the end. Here you can see from the 2018 paper.